After 80 years of listening, humanity's first alien message finally arrives. It's not a greeting of peace or a trove of knowledge. It's one word, repeated in every human language ever spoken: stop. The word echoes through the sterile silence of the Kuiper Research Outpost, a lonely bubble of light and life on the frozen edge of everything. For Dr. Elara Vance, the linguist who has spent her career dreaming of this moment, the sound is a physical blow. It's not a voice, but a perfect synthesized replication of human speech, cycling through Mandarin, English, Arabic, Spanish, a ghostly choir of all Earth's tongues delivering the same chilling imperative. This isn't a broadcast. It's a targeted reply, a bullet fired back along the exact path of humanity's first hopeful transmission sent a lifetime ago. The central mystery coils in the cold air. Why would a civilization capable of such precision use its first contact solely to tell us to cease all activity? And what is it about us, specifically, that warrants this warning? Elara's hands tremble over the console, not from excitement, but from a profound, cosmic loneliness that has just deepened into dread. She is alone in the comms lab. The station's night cycle a deep blue gloom against the observation ports that show only infinite black. Her fear of never finding another voice in the dark has been answered in the worst possible way. On the main screen, the signal's waveform pulses, a stark, jagged mountain range of data. The word stop is the terrifying peak, but her eyes are already snagging on the foothills, on the carrier wave beneath it. There's a pattern there, too regular, too intricate to be noise. It looks almost like a fractile, a repeating, spiraling signature etched into the fabric of the message itself. The lab door hisses open. Commander Rook fills the doorway, his face illuminated by the screen's cold light. He's a block of a man, mission pragmatic, his uniform always perfectly pressed even out here, 5 billion miles from anyone who would care. Status, Doctor, it's not a question. His eyes are on the waveform, not on her. It's a reply, Elara says, her voice thin, to the Arecibo dispersal. They heard us, they waited, and they're telling us to stop. Rook moves to a secondary terminal, his fingers flying over the keys. I'm initiating a full data quarantine. No outgoing packets. Nothing gets to Earth until we understand what this is. What it is first contact. The words burst from her, charged with a scholar's outrage. This is the single most important moment in human history, and you want to bury it. I want to contain it, he corrects, his tone icy. You heard the message. It's not hello. It's a command. We don't know the sender's intent, their capability. Broadcasting this panic back to Earth is how you start a war or a mass extinction event before we even know who we're talking to. He's right, and that terrifies her more. She turns back to her screen, focusing on the fractal pattern in the carrier wave. Something about it is itchily familiar, a shape seen in a dream or a textbook long ago. On instinct, she splits her screen, calling up a secondary database, not linguistic, biological. She inputs a search for non-coding DNA sequences, the so-called junk DNA that fills the human genome. She filters for highly conserved, repeating patterns. A match blooms on the screen. Elara's breath catches. The visual signature from the alien signal and a sequence labeled Homo sapiens telomeric adjacent repeat are a near-perfect mirror. The color drains from her face. The message is just in our languages. It's written in our own genetic code. The warning is literally in our blood. Rook, she whispers. He's beside her in 2 strides. He sees the side-by-side comparison. For the first time, the unflappable commander's composure cracks. A muscle ticks in his jaw. His eyes, usually so guarded, flash with something she can't place. Not surprise, recognition. Run it again, he orders, his voice low. Full isolation protocol on that correlation. Do not log it to the central server. Why? Elara asks, the question hanging between them. The open loop widens. Why is a military commander more interested in hiding this discovery than understanding it? Before he can answer, the station's ambient hum shifts. A low, resonant thrum vibrates through the deck plates, a sound that doesn't belong. The external sensor panel on Elara's console flares to life with proximity alerts. Unidentified objects on an intercept vector. No transponder codes. No hails. Rook is already moving, tapping his wrist comm. All personnel, this is the commander. Condition Zulu. I repeat, Condition Zulu. Secure all research data and report to hardened shelters. He turns to Elara, and the secret he's been hiding is now naked in his eyes. They're not here for the station, Doctor. The thrumming grows louder, a deep vibration in the bones of the station. Red emergency lights bathe the lab in a bloody glow, flashing in time with the proximity alarms. Commander Rook's hand is on her arm, his grip like iron. They're here for the data, he says, his voice cutting through the sirens. And for you, you're the only one who made the connection. Elara wrenches free, backing toward her console. Who are they? Earth Command, your people. People who understood the warning might come. He moves to a wall panel, inputs a code. A hidden compartment slides open, revealing not a weapon but a sleek black data drive. He slots it into a port on the main server. The stop signal wasn't our first, it was our first public one. A black-budget project, Operation Whisper, sent a tighter, faster burst decades before Arecibo. We got a reply in 3 years, same word. They ordered us to dismantle our deep space arrays and never transmit again. We buried it, and we kept listening. The revelation hits Elara like a vacuum chill. First contact happened in secret, and the powers that be chose to ignore it. The open loop widens. What else has been hidden? You knew, she accuses, her voice trembling with betrayal. You knew this was a reply to a provocation. You brought me here not to translate, but to confirm it was the same message. I brought you here because you're the best, Rook counters, his eyes flicking to the main viewer. The unidentified signatures are closing fast. And because I hoped I was wrong. The pattern in your DNA, that's new. That changes everything. On the screen, the external cameras activate. 3 angular, matte black shuttles, bearing no insignia, slide into view. They move with a silent, predatory grace that human engineering can't match. They don't hail. They simply latch onto the station's airlocks with magnetic grapples. The sound of metal shrieking against metal echoes down the corridors. They're boarding, Rook states. He tosses her the black data drive. This has the original Whisper transmission parameters and the reply. It also has a kill switch for the station's core memory. If they get it, all of this disappears. You need to get to the primary signal array. The array, why? Because you found the key, he shouts over the rising clamor. The DNA pattern, it's not just a signature, it's an address. The signal wasn't just for us, it was built for us, using a code we carry in every cell. They weren't broadcasting. They were sending a registered letter. You can answer it, properly. The expectation subversion is complete. The military man isn't here to silence her. He's here to help her send the most dangerous reply in history. He shoves a portable terminal into her hands, already slaved to the array controls. Go, through the maintenance conduits. I'll hold them here. They'll kill you. They'll try. For the first time, she sees a grim smile on his face. I'm harder to delete than a data packet. Now go. He turns, drawing a sidearm from another hidden panel, and positions himself at the lab entrance. The sound of booted feet pounding on the deck plates grows deafening. Elara doesn't hesitate. She slips into a narrow service duct just as the lab door explodes inward in a shower of sparks and concussive force. She doesn't look back. She crawls, the cold metal biting through her clothes, the black drive clutched so tightly her knuckles bleach. The conduit spills her out into the cavernous signal array chamber. The giant dish, pointed at the eternal dark, is silent now. Her hands fly over the portable terminal, accessing the core systems. She plugs in the black drive. The original Whisper transmission data floods the screen, a simple mathematical primer, humanity's first timid hello, sent by men who thought they were alone. Then she pulls up her own discovery, the visual of the fractal DNA pattern from the carrier wave. Her theory crystallizes. The pattern isn't a message, it's a lock, and human DNA is the key. She overlays the pattern onto the outgoing transmission buffer, using it to modulate the carrier wave. She is not sending words. Words have failed. She is sending the key itself back to the lock, a raw, unencrypted beacon screaming, "We are here. This is what we are." But as her finger hovers over the transmit command, a new sound freezes her blood. Not alarms, not weapons fire. A slow, rhythmic clapping from the shadows of the gantry above. A figure descends the stairs. It's Dr. Aris Thorne, the station's reclusive xenobiologist, a man she's exchanged maybe a dozen polite words within 6 months. He isn't wearing a hazard suit. The slow clapping echoes in the vast chamber. Dr. Aris Thorne descends the gantry stairs, his movements unnervingly calm amidst the chaos. He isn't wearing a hazard suit, just his standard lab tunic. His expression is one of academic curiosity, as if observing a fascinating lab experiment. "Bravo, Dr. Vance," Thorne says, his voice carrying easily. "The fractal key. I admit I didn't think you'd piece it together so quickly. Commander Rook's faith in you was well placed." Elara's hand remains frozen over the transmit command. "You're with them, the boarders." "With them, no." He reaches the floor and gestures vaguely toward the shuttered airlocks. They are blunt instruments, a cleanup crew sent by frightened men on Earth who think a problem can be shot into silence. I am with the original project, Operation Whisper. The open loop widens. How many layers of conspiracy are there? "You knew about the DNA match," Elara states, her mind racing. "We suspected. The pattern in the stop signal's carrier wave was a cipher we couldn't crack. We needed a linguist, but more than that, we needed a pattern recognition savant without the institutional bias." He takes a step closer. "You were the perfect test subject. Isolated, brilliant, hungry for meaning. We watched you, we even seeded your early research with papers on non-linguistic cosmic codes. The betrayal is so profound it feels like a physical wound. Her entire career, her purpose here, was a manipulated path to this moment. Rook knew, he brought her here as a tool. So this is all a test, she spits out, and those soldiers. A complication, the political arm of the project lost its nerve. They want the evidence destroyed and the witnesses eliminated. A tidy end to a messy truth. Thorn sighs as if discussing a bureaucratic inconvenience. Commander Rook was supposed to ensure you made the discovery, then deliver you and the data to me. His deviation is regrettable. The sound of distant pulse fire echoes down the corridor. Rook is still fighting, buying her time he wasn't supposed to. Thorn follows her glance. He won't last, and you have a choice. You can die here with your moral outrage, and humanity stumbles on in ignorance until the next, less polite warning comes, or you can help me send the proper response. Which is what? Elara demands, her fingers curling around the black data drive. Negotiation, Thorn says, his eyes gleaming. The stop signal isn't a warning about the universe, it's a quarantine notice. We are the infection. Something in our genetic makeup, that specific sequence, is a threat to an order we don't understand. But every quarantine can be lifted if the patient proves they are not a danger. We can prove we are controllable. Civilized, we offer them a deal. We cease deep space transmission, we submit to monitoring, and in return we get to live. We get to keep our solar system. The horror of his proposal sinks in. He wants to surrender humanity's future to secure its survival, to become a docile pet species in a gilded cage. And you think they'll just trust us? Elara asks. We'll give them a gesture of good faith, Thorn says, nodding to her console. The data drive Rook gave you, it doesn't just contain the Whisper protocols. It contains the location and transmission schematics of every deep space array, every probe, every listening post humanity has. We send them a map of all our guns and invite them to watch us dismantle them, starting with this one. He takes another step. He is between her and the only exit. Elara looks at the console. The transmission buffer is ready, modulated with the DNA key. Thorn's plan is a logical, horrific surrender, but it is a plan. It is a message made of words and deals, the same old human politics projected onto a cosmic scale. Rook's last words echo in her head. You can answer it, properly. He didn't mean with a deal, he meant with the truth. The station shudders violently. A secondary explosion, closer this time. The lights flicker, and the main array dish groans on its bearings. Thorn stumbles, grabbing a railing for support. In that moment, Elara makes her choice. She doesn't send the map, she doesn't send words. She slams her palm onto the console, activating the open microphone linked directly to the array's powerful transmitter. She closes her eyes, thinking not of diplomacy, but of the crushing loneliness of the outpost. She thinks of her first childhood telescope, of the awe that curdled into dread when the stop signal arrived. She thinks of Rook, fighting a doomed rearguard action he was never supposed to take. She pours every ounce of that raw human contradiction, the fear, the hope, the desperate need to connect, the terrifying capacity for violence, into a single screaming thought. The raw, unfiltered torrent of human emotion floods the transmission buffer. Elara doesn't speak, she feels. She broadcasts the crushing weight of the void, the fragile warmth of a remembered sunbeam, the electric terror of the soldiers breaching the lab, the stubborn, illogical ember of hope that brought her to the edge of space. It is a scream and a lullaby, a confession and a defiance, all encoded in the unique fractal key of her own DNA. On the gantry, Dr. Thorn's calm shatters. What are you doing? You're transmitting noise, you'll provoke them. The station's power grid screams in protest. Every light blows out in a shower of sparks, plunging the array chamber into darkness save for the frantic glow of Elara's portable terminal. The giant dish begins to move, not under her command, but grinding on its own, reorienting with a shriek of tortured metal. It is no longer pointing at the source of the stop signal. It is aiming itself at a different, empty patch of black. A new signal hits the array. It is not a word. It is a concept, a package of understanding that bypasses language and implants directly into her consciousness. She sees it, the answer to the central mystery. Humanity is not unique, we are a recurrence. A pattern. The DNA sequence is not a flaw, it is a marker. A signature of a specific type of consciousness that evolves on certain worlds, a consciousness capable of sublime art and profound compassion, but also of infinite recursive violence. A consciousness that doesn't just fight for territory or resources, but for ideology, for belief, for the sheer pathological joy of domination. A consciousness that upon reaching the stars does not explore. It infects, it conquers, it consumes, and it never ever stops. The stop signal is not a warning to us, it is a warning to the galactic community about us. We are the potential plague, the quarantine notice. The first civilization to receive this warning millennia ago heeded it. They built the silence. They became the sentinels. Their reply is an automated galactic-scale immune response, triggered by the detection of our specific genetic marker in an outgoing transmission. They are not telling us to stop exploring. They are telling us to stop broadcasting our contagion. The revelation is a universe-sized condemnation. Then a second concept package follows. This one is sharper, more immediate. It is a response to her emotional broadcast. They have received a transmission with the marker that is not a claim, not a threat, not a deal. It is a feeling. It is fear. It is loneliness. It is a child looking into the dark. It is new. In her mind's eye, Elara sees the 3 black shuttles latched to the station. A wave of something invisible, a focused pulse of gravitational distortion, passes through the station's hull. The shuttles simply come apart. Their molecular bonds fail. They dissolve into clouds of inert, microscopic dust that glitter for a moment in the distant sun's light before scattering into the void. The boarding team still inside the station collapse, not in pain, but in instant, silent unconsciousness. The violence is absolute, surgical, and merciful. It is a removal. The transmission ends. The array powers down. The emergency lights flicker back on, casting long, grim shadows. The only sound is the strained hiss of the life support system and Elara's ragged breathing. She slumps against the console. Thorn is staring at the observation port, at the empty space where the shuttles were, his face a mask of utter defeat. His logical deal has been rendered obsolete by an illogical truth. Minutes later, Commander Rook staggers into the chamber. He is bleeding from a gash on his temple, his uniform torn, but he is alive. He leans heavily on the doorway, taking in the scene. Elara shattered by understanding, Thorn broken by it. "It's done," Elara says, her voice hollow. "They answered." Rook nods slowly, seeing the truth in her eyes. The borders. Gone, cleaned up. A long silence hangs in the cold air. The immediate threat is over. The deeper truth is a burden they must now carry. Weeks later, on a secure channel to a select panel on Earth, Elara delivers her report. She tells them of the quarantine. She explains the marker in their DNA, the reason for the silence. She advises in the strongest possible terms a permanent end to all active directional transmission into the galaxy. She does not tell them about her emotional broadcast. She does not tell them about the precise, surgical removal of the Black Ops team, that data she and Rook have erased. The official story becomes one of tragic accident and mysterious signal interference. The Kuiper Outpost is quietly decommissioned. On the final shuttle home, Elara looks out at the receding station. Rook sits beside her, his mission finally, truly over. "They spared you," he says quietly. "They spared me. They killed the ones who came to silence the truth. Why?" Elara remembers the concepts implanted in her mind. The first was a history lesson. The second was a judgment. The shuttle's interior is cold, the kind of deep space chill that seeps into the bones. Elara watches the Kuiper Outpost shrink to a lonely speck against the infinite black. Commander Rook's question hangs between them, the only real question left. "They spared you, they spared me, they killed the ones who came to silence the truth. Why?" Elara turns from the viewport. The concepts implanted in her mind are not memories she can recall, but truths she simply knows. The first transmission they sent me was the history, the quarantine, what we are. And the second, Rook presses, his eyes sharp. "The second was the judgment," she says, her voice quiet. "It was a response to what I sent. They didn't just receive my emotional broadcast, they analyzed it. They parsed every spike of fear, every waveform of loneliness, every harmonic of hope. They were looking for a pattern within the pattern." "Looking for what?" "For the recursion," Elara whispers. "The marker in our DNA isn't for violence, it's for the potential of recursive violence. Violence that justifies itself, that evolves, that spreads like a thought virus. A species that fights for survival is one thing. A species that fights for an idea and then fights for the purity of that idea and then exterminates anyone who questions it, that's the contagion. That's what never stops." The Black Ops team, Thorn's logical surrender, my desperate scream, they were all data points. They were testing the recursion. Rook processes this, the soldier in him understanding the tactical assessment, and we passed. "We didn't pass, we presented an anomaly." She meets his gaze. "You were ordered to secure me for Thorn, to facilitate a quiet deal that would sell our future for safety. You disobeyed. You gave me the tools and told me to answer properly, knowing it might doom us. That was an illogical act. It was loyalty to an ideal, the ideal of truth over mission parameters, over survival." "And you," he asks, "you could have sent Thorn's map, you could have negotiated, you sent a scream." "I sent the contradiction," Elara says. The fear and the hope tangled together, not a unified front, not a political deal, a messy individual truth. The Sentinels have only ever seen the marker activate one way, as a precursor to expansion, to conquest, to the recursive logic of empire. They saw it in the whispered transmission. They saw it in the borders coming to erase evidence. But in us, in that moment, they saw the marker, and then they saw it being fought from the inside by the very carrier of the disease. The shuttle hums towards Earth, a 9-month journey ahead of them. The official story is sealed. The outpost was lost to a catastrophic reactor malfunction. The stop signal is classified as an unexplained cosmic echo. Elara and Rook are the only two people alive who know the galaxy is a silent garden, and humanity is a weed that just managed to look like a flower for one fleeting moment. Years later, Elara Vance lives in a remote cabin in the Norwegian fjords. She has no telescope. The night sky is a blanket, not a window. One evening, as the aurora bleeds green across the stars, her old encrypted terminal, a relic she should have destroyed, pings softly on her desk. A single file appears, no origin point. It contains no words, no concepts, just a simple, clean data stream. It is a real-time feed. She sees the silent, graceful movements of what can only be other civilizations' vessels, going about their business in the dark between stars. A trading route here, a construction project there, a peaceful, bustling galaxy living in the quiet. The feed focuses on one star system, third planet from a yellow sun, a world of blue and green. The resolution sharpens, impossibly, until she can see the lights of cities on the night side. The feed holds there. It is a live view of Earth. Then a final data packet arrives. It is not a message. It is a key, a cryptographic sequence that would, if used, temporarily disable the automated quarantine protocol for a narrow, specific band of the spectrum. It is not an invitation. It is a test, a single door left very slightly ajar. They are watching, they saw the anomaly, and they are waiting to see if the weed will choose to become a flower, or if it will forget, and reach for the stars once more with the same old, recursive hunger. Elara closes the terminal. She walks to the window, looking up at the indifferent, beautiful stars. The silence is no longer a prison. It is a choice. It is the most important thing humanity will ever choose to keep. What do you think she does with the key? Let me know your theory in the comments. The encrypted terminal sits on Elara's desk, a black slab holding the galaxy's most dangerous secret. The aurora outside has faded, leaving the stars in cruel, perfect clarity. The live feed of Earth still glows on the screen, a constant, silent reminder. And the key, the cryptographic sequence that could temporarily open a door in the silence. For 3 days she does nothing. She watches the feed. She sees the silent dance of alien civilizations in the dark, a harmony built on a rule she now understands: do not disturb, do not spread. The quarantine is not malice. It is medicine. Humanity's potential for recursive violence, the kind that burns worlds for an idea, makes us the virus. She thinks of Commander Rook, now a security consultant for off-world mining operations, his own silence a heavier burden than any he carried before. She thinks of the public story, the lie of a reactor malfunction that allowed Earth to collectively shrug and look inward again. The great transmission arrays are mothballed. The age of shouting into the dark is over. Peace through ignorance has been achieved. But the key mocks that peace. It is a test, a single, carefully monitored door. Use it, and the Sentinels will be watching not for a declaration of war, but for a pattern of thought, for the recursion. On the 4th night she makes her decision, not out of hope, but out of a terrible responsibility. She activates the key. The terminal accepts the sequence. A new interface blooms, simple and stark, a one-way narrowband transmission buffer, open for exactly 60 seconds. A single chance to send a signal that will not trigger the automated immune response. A chance to speak, not scream. She does not type, she does not send equations or art or pleas. She links the terminal to a private server she has maintained for years, a digital archive she titled The Contradiction. It contains curated data packets, security footage from the Kuiper outpost of Rook fighting his own side, Thorne's cold proposal for surrender, the raw market data from the economic collapse that followed the accident, where profiteers were ruined and grassroots aid networks flourished. She includes the first draft of the global treaty banning active SETI, showing the amendments where militaristic clauses were struck out by public pressure. She sends news clips of riots and of reconciliation, of rockets being scrapped and new forests being planted. She sends a child's drawing of a friendly alien next to a historical painting of a burning witch. It is not a narrative, it is not propaganda, it is a curated sample of our chaos, our worst impulses, and our fragile, persistent efforts to reach for something better. It is the pattern and the fight against the pattern, presented without comment. She transmits it all in the 59 seconds before the window closes. The terminal goes dark, the live feed of the galaxy winks out. The screen displays only a single, blinking cursor in an empty field. A year passes. The silence is absolute. She sometimes wonders if she failed the test, if the sentinels saw only the chaos and sealed the door forever. Then on the anniversary night, the terminal activates itself. The aurora is again painting the sky. A new file appears. It is not a concept package, it is a mirror. It is a data stream of another world from another time. She sees a species not human but grappling with the same duality. She sees their wars fought over genetic purity. She sees their great transmission, a manifesto of superiority sent into the void, and she sees them receive the stop signal. Their choice was unification through tyranny, a brutal global empire forged to present a single, disciplined face to the cosmos. They passed their recursion on, perfected it, and broadcast a message of flawless, militant order back to the Sentinels as proof of their control. The feed shows their star system now. It is dark, silent, not destroyed, just empty. The final logical end of the recursive loop, a species that chose perfect, sterile control over messy life and ultimately chose nothing at all. The message ends. Beneath it, a final line of text appears, in plain English. It is the first and only word the Sentinels have ever directly sent to her. Continue. Elara walks outside, the cold air sharp in her lungs. She looks up. The silence is still there, but it feels different now. It is not a warning, it is an acknowledgement. The quarantine stands, the door is closed, but the message is clear. The fight is not to reach the stars. The fight is here in every choice, every day. The fight is to continue being the anomaly, to nurture the contradiction. To prove to ourselves more than anyone that a species carrying the seed of infinite violence can also choose infinite care. The greatest discovery in human history was not that we are not alone. It was the reason why we were told to be quiet, and the only thing left to do is to live up to the silence. What do you think the Sentinels saw in her transmission that made them send that word? Let me know your theory in the comments.